Well, hello and welcome back to another exciting Cal OSHA update. We're doing our mid-year check-in with Conn Maciel Carey with Megan Shickhead and Rachel Conn. And we're going to see how well they did predicting, what was going to happen at the beginning of the year and what regulations have come to light, and then take a look at what to expect or anticipate for the remainder of the year. This is the Quick Take, the Cal OSHA Quick Take, and Conn Maciel Carey will be hosting the full webinar on May 22nd, and that's 10 a.m. Pacific time or 1 p.m. Eastern time on May 22nd. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rachel and Megan.
Thank you. And it's great to be here as always. I'm Rachel Conn. I am the chair of the California practice, and my colleague and fellow Cal OSHA partner, Megan Shickhead, is here with me today, and we'll be presenting the Cal OSHA updates, mid-year update at the end of the month. And for you all that have been following this at home, it's already been a very busy year for Cal OSHA. There's been lots of rulemaking, lots of enforcement. So there's certainly a lot of things to catch up on and to update everyone on as we approach the mid-year. And we expect the second half of 2024 to be just as busy as the first half, particularly with all of the enforcement that's likely going to come out of the new regulations that we're going to talk about, and some of the new ones that are coming down the pike. So the big one that everybody has been preparing for, that we've talked about several times here on Quick Take, as well as in our webinars, is that SB 553, the Workplace Violence Prevention Statute, is going into effect July 1. So we'll be covering that one again as well. I'm sure everyone has heard a lot about it, but since the last time that we spoke about it, there's been updates in terms of FAQs from Cal OSHA and things that we've been seeing with employers, and as we work through many of these plans. So we're happy to share with you tips and strategies around finishing that last piece of implementation and compliance before that July 1 date as it quickly approaches. We can also give you some of our updates as what we're hearing from Cal OSHA about potential enforcement and next steps. Once we get to July 1 in compliance, it's just the first step. There's the actual rolling out and the day-to-day maintenance of these programs, and we'll give you some strategies around that as well. Another big piece that has come down, and this is actually coming out of Fed OSHA. So Fed OSHA has finalized their worker walk-around rule, which goes into effect May 31st. And so I'm sure that many of you have heard our colleagues on the Fed side talk about that. But we'll be talking about how Cal OSHA plans on implementing it. They are required to have a regulation at least as effective. For some of you that are familiar, there is a labor code statute here in California that covers inspections. And so we'll talk about how the new Fed OSHA rule that gives more rights to third parties to accompany the co-show during inspections is going to potentially play out here in California, and how you can prepare yourselves for those for that potential new regulation that's going to be coming out of Cal OSHA to comply with the feds. And speaking of what's going on with the feds and Cal OSHA, one thing that has been making its way through the Cal OSHA Standards Board is attention to amendments of fall protection for residential construction. Here in California, we have our rule that the industry feels very strongly is safe, and the feds have been pushing significantly on Cal OSHA to change that rule to align with the federal rule that they believe Cal OSHA is out of compliance with. So we're in the middle of that process, and we'll give you an update as to where that is, where we think it's going, and what you should prepare for as that makes its way through the rulemaking process as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to my partner, Megan Shaqued, that can touch on some of the other things that are coming up on the webinar.
Thanks, Rachel. So one of the other things that we're planning on covering is the heat illness, in particular, the indoor regulation. This was a pretty low drama, expected to, make its way through passage and go into effect ahead of the summer higher heat period of the year. And there were some surprises in the last couple of standards board meetings. And so we're going to kind of go over what's going on with indoor heat illness. And, the takeaway is we think that employers should continue to be prepared. Most employers should continue to be prepared for that indoor heat regulation to take effect, but it's had some bumps along the road unexpectedly. So we'll go over some detail about that for those who are particularly interested in how, the administrative code works in California and what the standards board and Cal OSHA can do when things get a little bit off track with a proposed regulation. So we'll go over that for heat illness. And then for those of you who maybe tuned in for the recent OSHA webinar on e-record keeping, you know that there was an expansion of the e-record keeping requirements at the federal OSHA level. And to Rachel's point about Cal OSHA needing to be as effective as the federal regulations, there is a proposed rulemaking to make similar changes to the Cal OSHA regulation for e-record keeping. So we'll go over some of the details in the proposed amendments for it's covered under the recording reporting rule that is focused on the e-record keeping requirement. Similar to, making sure that they're in line with Fed OSHA requirements, though this one has taken a little bit longer. The e-record keeping rule at the federal level changed last summer, but we have a proposed change to fit testing for respiratory protection. And this is stemming from a change that the feds made back in 2019, where they added some additional approved fit testing protocols. So Cal OSHA is going through their kind of regular administrative process to propose changes. And these are to the Appendix A of the Respiratory Protection Regulation 5144 that will incorporate some of those additional fit testing protocols and just clean up that appendix a little bit to be consistent with what the feds allow and require at this point. And then finally, to round it out, this will hopefully not be, too new to folks, but we will, just as a reminder, go over the changes that were adopted to the lead standards, both general industry and construction, as well as what's happening with the silica emergency temporary standard. For those of you who, are familiar with the ETS kind of program, the timeline on that goes very quickly, and the agency has to follow up an emergency temporary standard with a permanent standard. So we'll provide an update on what's happening on that front as well.
That's great. There's a lot going on, a lot to be considering and up to date on. So definitely thank Megan and Rachel for joining us for the Cal OSHA Quick Take today. Again, the full webinar will be on May 22nd, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a link in the description below, so you can click over and register for that webinar. But again, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Scott.